Today we're going to be making a clay rattle. You're going to need 2 balls of clay, a little bit of extra clay scraps, a bowl of water, and your basket of tools. You're going to start by taking some of your scrap clay and making about 5, 6, 7 little balls that will go inside of your rattle that when we're done and it's fired will shake around and make noise inside the rattle. You're going to try to make them about the same size and then set them to the side. I'm going to set my scrap clay to the side and take one of my balls of clay, and I want to smooth it out as much as possible to start my pinch pot. I'm going to take my thumb and punch a hole in the middle, but not all the way through, and then I'm going to pinch between my thumb and my fingers to make that pot shape. I can flip it upside down to kind of make it rounded at the top because we're going to turn our 2 pinch pots into a ball with a middle cavity in the center. So I can make both of my pinch pots. I want to try and make them in the same size, and you want to make sure that the walls of your pinch pots don't get much thinner than the width of one of your fingers. I can flip them upside down to make them rounded, and I want to make sure that they're about the same size. You can pick up both sides and check them to see and make sure that they are the same size. Next, I'm going to take just a little bit of water and I'm going to smooth out the outside of my pinch pot. This is going to be the outside of our rattle. And a little bit, just a tiny bit of water helps smooth out any cracks or any bumps. I'm going to flip it back over and make sure that the inside of my pinch pot has a nice cavity in it as well. I want to do this before I attach both sides of my pinch pot to make our round sphere with the cavity in the middle. It fits pretty good. It's the same size and the creases match up really well. The next thing I'm going to do is take my toothpick and I'm going to score and slip both of the tops of my pinch pots. This is where my pinch pots will connect to form that sphere with the center that is open and empty. You want to make sure you score and slip any pieces that you attach together. This will help connect them really well. It kind of forms like a clay Velcro. If you rough it up and stick a little water on it, it makes it really strong. So I roughed up my edges. I'm going to add a little bit of water and I'm going to stick them together. But before I do that, I'm going to take my little spheres that I made and I want to add them to the center of my clay. They will kind of stick because the clay is wet, but once it's dry and fired, they will become loose and rattle inside of your sphere. So I'm going to add those and I'm going to put the top of my pinch pot together and kind of form it. I want to smooth out that crease really good. So I'm very carefully doing that without squishing my ball too much because we want to keep the center of that really nice. So we're making that nice sphere by adding our 2 pinch pots together and smoothing out that crease. I'm going to do a little more smoothing and shaping, but I want to make sure that crease is smoothed out really well. So I can use my hands to kind of smooth any little cracks or any little spots. I can use my hands and the table to even make it just a little bit more rounded. But if I roll it on the table, I want to make sure I don't press down too hard because we don't want our sphere to get smaller and the center part where it's empty to get smaller either. The next thing I want to do is I want to decorate the outside of my sphere of my rattle. So I want to think about using that scrap clay to add attachments onto it. Now, we know that when we attach 2 pieces of clay, we have to score and slip them. But I'm kind of just playing around with what I might want to go in different places, and then I will score and slip when I decide what I want to do with my pieces. Use the planning sheet we made last week to add any of your details with what the designs you came up with. What is the theme that you wanted to do? I wanted to kind of do an underwater coral theme. So I'm making some pieces that kind of remind me of coral, maybe some different things that have to do with the reefs and underwater ocean. So I'm using a fork or a toothpick to add my scoring and slipping in a little water. And then I'm just attaching all over my sphere. Score and slip all of your pieces together. Scoring is where you rough up the edges, and slipping is where you add just a touch of water to both sides and then stick them together. Use the tools in your basket to also make designs on top of the clay you added, or even on the backgrounds and behind the pieces you've added, to add textures and details and designs. Keep going and fill up your entire sphere with different designs and textures. Once you've got your sphere all covered, you're going to do your final touches. Make sure you've covered the entire ground. I left a little spot on the bottom because that's where it's going to sit when it's not being used. That spot will end up just crushing any clay while it dries. So I'm going to smooth out that little bit at the bottom and then do any final details. Make sure when you're flipping your sphere over any of the pieces that you attached, you're doing it very carefully so they don't get squished. I also want to make sure before I'm done that I take my toothpick and I write my name on the bottom of my sphere. So that little flat spot we have where it's going to sit is a perfect place to write your name. After you do that, you're going to take your toothpick and you're going to actually poke holes from the outside into that center part, where the empty part is and where the little rattle pieces are. If you don't leave any holes in your sphere, since there is air trapped inside of it, it will likely explode in the kiln. So you want to leave some places where the air inside of that center empty cavity can escape. I will help you with this part if you need it. When you're all done adding those pieces with your toothpick, you can bring your clay to be set aside on the shelf and dry and be ready to be fired, and then we will glaze them another day.